Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the 22nd Annual Caregivers Are Learning More Conference. We're so delighted and honored to be here today with you all. So, I'm Jenny Peterson, and I'll be your host for today's program. I am a program specialist at the USC Family Caregiver Support Center, and I put together community education events and programming for the center. I know many of you have watched or attended more than one of our caregiver conferences, and I'm so pleased to welcome you all again. This year's conference is taking on a different format than our usual one-day event. Our conference will actually be broken up into smaller pieces throughout the month. I've personally been calling it more of an event series. Now, think of it like this: instead of a one-day conference, our center will be holding a month-long celebration in honor of National Family Caregivers Month. This video today is our kickoff session for our event series, and it's only the beginning of a month filled with both fun and educational events planned for our caregiving community. Now, of course, what is a conference or an event series without a theme? Our theme this year is caregiver life hacks. Some of you out there might be wondering, what's a life hack? Well, that's a good question. A life hack is a simple, often clever tip or technique for accomplishing a familiar task more easily and efficiently. We will explore life hacks for taking care of yourself and improving skills to help you with your caregiving. I mentioned National Family Caregivers Month earlier. For those of you who don't know, National Family Caregivers Month, which is celebrated each November, is a time to recognize and honor family caregivers across the country. Celebrating family caregivers during National Family Caregiver Month enables all of us to, number one, raise awareness of family caregiver issues. Number two, celebrate the efforts of family caregivers. Number three, educate family caregivers about self identification. And number four, increase support for family caregivers. President Clinton signed the first National Family Caregivers Month presidential proclamation in 1997, and every president since has followed suit by issuing an annual proclamation recognizing and honoring family caregivers each November. This is the reason why, for the last 22 years, our center has held an annual caregiver conference in November. This November, please join us in celebrating National Family Caregivers Month as we talk about different ways to support family caregivers. So, all this talk about family caregivers, what exactly do we mean when we say family caregivers? Well, a family caregiver is someone who provides unpaid, informal care to a family member or friend with a debilitating chronic medical condition. In other words, you are a caregiver if you regularly provide help to another person and feel responsible for their well being. You may be caring for this other person at home, or perhaps they still live in their own home. Your loved one may be in a facility, and you may be overseeing their care. You may be a long distance caregiver, meaning that you are caregiving from afar. These are just a few examples. There are many different caregiving situations that families find themselves in, and the USC Family Caregiver Support Center serves and supports family caregivers as they navigate through their caregiving journey. At this point, I'd like to introduce you all to Dr. Donna Benton, the director of the USC Family Caregiver Support Center. She has over 30 years of experience in providing direct service, advocacy, and programs for families caring for persons with dementia. She was appointed to the California Master Plan for Aging Stakeholder Advisory Commission and the California Commission on Aging. Her research focus is on the development of online evidence based interventions for family caregivers to improve mental and physical health and well being and the prevention of elder mistreatment. Dr. Benton, thank you for joining us today. Can you please tell us a little bit about the USC Family Caregiver Support Center and how your center supports family caregivers?
Oh, thank you, Jenny, for that warm introduction. As the director of the LA Caregiver Resource Center at University of Southern California, I'm really proud that our center is able to bring you all this wonderful programming for this month, which is our National Family Caregiver Support Month. Now, this year is our 22nd annual Caregiver Conference, and the name of this program is Life Hacks for Caregivers. So, we've got a great mixture of both fun and educational events that are planned for you all throughout this month. And don't forget to check online because we're going to have some of those life hacks in shorter versions on our website and with Twitter and with our Instagram. Now, as Jenny mentioned earlier, we've changed up our usual format because we usually have a 1 day conference. And this year we're breaking it up into smaller events throughout the month. And I hope all of you will join us as our center holds this month-long celebration during National Family Caregiver Support Month. Now, we really have some great activities. And so please look at the calendar, look out for your emails, and check online. And you'll be getting that information where to find us online. I want to also thank you because the reason that we do this every month and the rest of the year is because we want to be here to help you, the family caregiver. Now, I also need to thank both the folks over at Brookdale Senior Living who are actually going to be hosting our movie get together on Saturday. When's the last time you came out to see a film? Well, come join us on Saturday, November the 19th at Brookdale. And this is going to be a new sponsor this year. And I'm so pleased that we're going to be able to work together to serve family caregivers. And I want to thank Brookdale for their support this year. The conferences and the events throughout this Caregiver Life Hack program are also made possible through funding from the LA County Aging and Disability Department and the California Department of Aging. So please, I want to make sure that we thank them for their support throughout the year for our funding. I also want to thank my staff, and in particular, the community engagement team of David Barrera, Jenny Peterson, and Alex Gonzalez, who really helped coordinate and put together all of the fun and educational activities that you can participate in this month, along with our digital partner, Finest City Entertainment, who's been helping us throughout this programming. I also want to take a special little bit of time right now to remind you what we do here at our center. We provide individualized support and information and education to you, the family caregiver. So maybe you're at the beginning of your journey, or maybe you've been doing this for many years, but we're here to help you with family consultations, support groups, education, training programs, respite assistance, and so many other things, which all start with a conversation so that we understand your individual caregiving experience. Now, I want to make sure that you know how to reach us. And so our phone number is 1-800-540-4442. But a faster way to get to us is to go on the website and go to Los Angeles crc.usc.edu and click on CareNav. And that will get you started with an individualized, confidential way of beginning your care journey and support with us at the LA Caregiver Resource Center. Again, that website is losangelescrc.usc.edu, and you can see it right there on the screen. And you click on Care Nav, and that gives you individualized resources based on a few questions that you'll start with when you start filling out the form online. And that's will be the beginning, and then we will also call you to talk to you individually. Now, you already have our toll-free number, and there are staff right now waiting to answer any questions and more information about our center. Becoming a caregiver, we know, often happens unexpectedly, and but it's important to realize that you're not alone and there is help out here for you. The USC Family Caregiver Support Center, or sometimes we call ourselves the LA Caregiver Resource Center at USC, is here to support you throughout the year and not just during this very special month of thanks to you for what you do throughout the year. Well, that's about all. I don't want to hold up the program anymore, so I'm going to give it back to Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benton, for sharing the critical role that the USC Family Caregivers Support Center plays in assisting family caregivers. Now, let's talk about a hot topic in caregiving, the idea of respite. What does respite mean? Many caregivers may not have heard this word before. Respite is basically taking a break. It is something that helps our family caregivers take a break from their caregiving. Respite is a huge part of self care for family caregivers. Caregivers often spend so much of their time and energy to caring for their loved ones that they end up neglecting themselves. Studies have shown that caregivers are often in worse health than the people they care for. And that is why we end up seeing so many caregivers suffering from burnout and other stress related conditions. Now that I've explained what respite is, let's talk about some of the things that we can do to take good care of ourselves and look after our well being. Respite can come in many forms, including mental, emotional, and physical. I'm joined by my colleague, Marie Mayan Cho, who is our clinical manager and oversees the family consultants on our staff. Marie has invited three of her family consultants here today to discuss and share life hacks on how caregivers can take charge of their well being and think of how they can care for the caregiver. Welcome, Marie, and take it away.
Thank you, Jenny. We are excited to be part of the National Caregiver Appreciation Month. Our discussion today is about caring for the caregiver. This is one of the activities that our center has planned to honor all that informal caregivers do. I'm excited to have three of our dedicated family consultants with us to have a discussion about stress and how we can learn about techniques to cope with stress. I would like to ask you to please introduce yourselves. If we can start with Cecia.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Cecia Garcia Rojas. I have been with the Family Caregiver Support Center for 2.5 years, a little over 2.5 years, and I look forward to today's presentation and hope that you're able to take, even if it's just one tip that may be able to help you deal with stress and take care of yourself.
Thank you, Cecia. Gabby.
Hi, I am Gabby. I'm one of the family consultants here at the Family Caregiver Support Center. I've been with the program for about 2 years, and I'm excited to talk about these topics today.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Yvonne.
Hi, I'm Yvonne Kuo. I'm one of the family consultants here at USC Family Caregiver Support Center, and I look forward to actually providing some tips and hopefully some insight for you to help you through the journey of family caregiving.
Great. Thank you, Yvonne. I'm very excited about this conversation. As we know, caregiving can be very rewarding. Most caregivers truly enjoy providing support to someone who needs their help. But we have learned, actually, a recent report by ARP told us that approximately 36% of informal caregivers experience high stress levels. And so we want to talk a little bit about what does that mean? What is stress? How does it affect our health? And of course, which I'm very excited that our family consultants have had a lot of experience in supporting our clients, our caregivers, in talking about techniques to help them cope with those stress levels. So if I can please start with Cecia. Cecia, can you please tell us about stress? What is stress? And how do we experience stress?
Well, stress is really it's a really complex topic, and I think it's important that we recognize that it is going to manifest itself differently for each caregiver. So while we are going to talk about general ideas about stress today, we understand that we may not cover every single experience. Stress is it's a human response to perceived threats. These threats could be real or can be imagined. These responses that we experience may be physical and or mental. We often consider stress to be only a negative aspect of life, but stress is a human response that keeps us alive. Stress alerts our bodies to a specific situation. It keeps us vigilant and may help us avoid danger. If we experience stress for extended periods and without relief, this is when stress becomes a problem.
In how does stress levels, high stress levels, impact our health? Can you please give us some examples of the physical, mental, and emotional impact that stress has on all of us, but more so for
Sure,
caregivers?
sure. So let's again, I just want to emphasize before delving into that question that instead of considering or labeling stress as good or bad, let's consider it a necessity. So let's try to reframe it as something that is necessary for our lives in some ways. And so one of the ways that that stress and our bodies specifically may react to stress or may respond to stress is if we are under attack, our body's
Mhm.
heart rate and breathing will increase, our brain activity and vision may change, we may pass out or disassociate. These are responses that our bodies are wired to have in the face of stress. Our body's responses, our body's response is an adaptive mechanism, and it can help respond again to these threats. In these circumstances, again, if we are under attack, acute or short term stress may be the difference between life and death. Now, chronic or long term stress, it is also a response to a perceived threat, but it may be harmful. Some physical side effects of chronic stress are stomach aches or stomach
Mhm.
issues, headaches or migraines, back pain, trouble sleeping, a weakened immune system. Emotionally, chronic stress may lead to feelings of hopelessness or fear or being fearful. We sometimes forget that our behaviors may also be impacted by chronic stress. We may become withdrawn. We may change our eating habits or be more irritable with others. Lastly, chronic stress may affect our cognitive abilities by decreasing our attention span and problem solving skills.
Great. Well, thank you, Cecia. And, like we said, with caregivers, many times, right, we don't even recognize the signs of high levels of stress. We may just don't feel good, don't just feel like you said some of the things that we don't necessarily recognize that is actually that we are experiencing high levels of stress. um, what are, for instance, as if I may ask, what are some of the stressors that caregivers share with you when you talk to them?
I mean, stressors can really look, like I mentioned at the very beginning, each caregiver's experience is going to be different. But observing the person that you're caring for instance, their health changes sometimes abruptly, that can be a stressor. So a changing environment or a changing circumstance may be a stressor. um, some Another stressor for a caregiver may be um, attempting to connect to a program or a service and successfully doing that, but then the program or the service isn't quite what they expected or what they needed. So that can be a source of stress as well. Their own health and how it's changing, and how they may experience again some feelings of hopelessness around their own health changes, that can be a stressor. So there are a variety of different stresses and stressors that come with caregiving, and those are just a few of the examples.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Cecia. And I know that, the past couple of years, due to the pandemic, one of the things that we have all experienced is isolation. I know that, but before we talk about isolation, let's talk a little bit about long-term effects of stress. We often talk about burnout, and sometimes people don't truly understand what that means. And I know Gabby has a great way of explaining and telling us a little bit about a burnout. What does that mean? Can you please share with us, Gabby?
Yes. So burnout happens, especially among caregivers, um, when there's an extended period of doing the work as a caregiver, or an overload of work. And it really impacts your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health, and it really causes issues in that area. So that's pretty much what burnout is.
Yeah, no, that's great. And how can we recognize the signs of burnout in caregivers specifically?
So burnout could be recognized in your own physical health. When you're missing appointments and you start to notice things are going on with your appearance, how you're feeling. It also can appear in your emotional well-being, whether you're getting angry pretty quickly, whether you're getting frustrated. Um, Also, if you're feeling tired, I think I mentioned that earlier.
Yes. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
just how you're responding to people that are around you, including the people that you're caring for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it is very important that we pay attention, right, to our body, that we know how we're feeling. And so today, that's one of the most important topics that we want to talk about is not just recognize what stress is, what we find
Mhm.
stressful in our caregiving journey, but also being able to have a discussion about what can we do about it. And we briefly mentioned about the impact the long-term stress can have on our health, our own health. One of the things we often hear about is how, as caregivers, we often forget to take care of ourselves, right? Including things like not going to your doctor's appointments or canceling your appointments because you feel that, no, just right now, I don't have the time to do that. I need to take care of my spouse or my mother. They're different people that we care for. And as we said, long term, not just the impact of stress, but the fact that we miss those appointments long term, that can lead, as we mentioned, about burnout. And so I want to take some time for us to talk a little bit about some of the stress management techniques that we often share with our caregivers and that even some of us practice. And Yvonne, if you can please talk a little bit with us about what are some of the techniques that you have found very useful for caregivers to practice to help them address their stress levels.
Sure. One of the most easiest and simplest forms is relaxation breathing, and you can do it anywhere. It is definitely something that family caregivers can use to relax themselves, to start off the morning. It is a different type of breathing than what most of us do as adults. You see more
Mhm.
of the relaxation breathing when you see a baby sleep. It's more of the abdominal diaphragm, using the diaphragm to really breathe, to really take in the oxygen, um, take in the oxygen and breath in so that you can actually release it as a whole body relaxation form. That's the
Mhm.
most simplest and easiest. And I have caregivers that say that when they're stuck in Los Angeles traffic and they need to be somewhere, they're practicing deep relaxation breathing, and there's different techniques that can help you remember. And then I have caregivers that will be in stressful situations. They will before they speak, they will do the deep breathing before they start talking, and
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
centers them. Yes. So deep breathing, relaxation breathing, is one of the best forms that you can use, and it's the most simplest. You don't need anything, just
You
your
don't need
breath.
anything. You don't have, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. And you don't have to pay for it, right? It's free.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And one of
Yeah.
the other things that has become very popular, or at least we talk about it now more than we used to, is about meditation. Can you tell us a little bit more about meditation? I know that many times people say, "Well, I don't know what that is," and they're not open to trying it because they think that it may be too difficult or just not have a clear understanding of what that is.
Meditation is a form of, it's a technique. It's a form where you use more of being mindful of what goes through your thoughts, and also reflective as you do also deep breathing, um, and focusing your thoughts on certain, I would say it's more like focusing your thoughts so that you can actually relax your mind, but still have, um, being mindful of what goes through your mind during that time, so it passes through, and you can then be able to reflect and also recenter yourself afterwards. It's being more mindful of yourself and how you feel at that particular moment. And from there, with the deep breathing, you can actually feel a little bit more refocused and recentered, to be able to start something new. And sometimes it could be just you just sitting there and reflecting in silence and having those thoughts really go through your mind and process it for a certain time period, or else it could be some form of guided meditation where you I know I use YouTube to go through guided meditation. It could be imagery, it could be definitely something that helps you relax your muscles as you do the deep breathing and then tense and relax your muscles. So it recenters yourself. So
That's great.
that's what I
Now,
would.
how can people find out more about whether it's breathing exercises or meditation? What are some resources that you are able to provide?
I know that I use YouTube a lot nowadays,
Hmm.
and you can find
Yeah.
most anything. I think one of the things to note is that there are many, many, many videos that are out there, but what is important is what you find is helpful to you. Sometimes I'm very picky about the voice, the tone of voice, if it's a male or a female,
Mhm.
or it's just the speed of the voice that's speaking to me to go through this meditation. So YouTube is one, and then there's CDs on that you can purchase, or even like go borrow from the library. And then there's streaming through Spotify. There's a lot of different streaming, different apps that you can use. Um, I know that these are some things that are available online and virtual. Other things that some caregivers do is sometimes they'll just go out to the community centers. There's some activities perhaps that they can join. It's a group activity too, and go through classes. So it's out there
Right.
in the community.
Great. Yeah. One of the things that I know works for me, and I know it works for many people, is music. Music is a very important part of my life. And how does that help us? I know I can feel it, but how does it help my stress? How does that help caregivers to cope with stress?
Music really does something to refocus. And well, first of all, it distracts you from what you were thinking,
Yeah.
and then it
Right.
helps you refocus on things that perhaps you're doing next. But it helps you get into a different mood.
Mhm.
It provides you with a distraction, but it is really based upon like your interest. Like the music that you're interested in can be not so not so t- not taken as interesting as others. So there's music that some people enjoy more, like classical music relaxes. I know when I was mother to my daughter, um, when she was young, is Mozart. Mozart helps relax the mind, provides sleep. Um, and then there's music that energizes. And so
Right.
if you want to enliven your spirit, you might want to have a more
Hmm.
jovial, more
Yeah.
giddy music, so more upbeat music. So it
Hmm.
really is based upon the interest of the person. Yes. And
Cecia,
it does
what
help.
type of- Mhm.
Oh, sorry. It does help you like take your mind away from the stressors and then come back to it in a different mindset.
That's a great point. I'm sorry, Cecia, I was about to ask you, do you also find music to be a good technique to help cope with stress?
Absolutely. I would say that it also I agree with everything Yvonne shared. My only addition to the conversation would be that it also provides an opportunity for possible physical movement if you are able to dance and to move your body. And it doesn't even have to be that you're standing up moving. It can be in a chair. I sometimes take a break during the day, put on, as Yvonne suggested, something that's like a mood lifter or a song that I think is a mood lifter. And then I just kind of move my body in my own chair. And it may provide an opportunity if you maybe know the person who you're caring for, their tastes. Maybe you can put on a song or some music that they may also relate to, and it can be kind of a communal type of experience, you and them, as well. So yes, I find music to be very much re-energizing. And also, if you want to let out a good cry, put on some music. It can be very cathartic as well, and that's good.
That's good. Yes. No, it's wonderful. And we're so fortunate, especially nowadays, that we have access to so much music, right? I love listening to jazz, and that's my go-to music when I feel like I just need to relax and, finish my day in a more positive note. What are some other things that you feel that people or that that other caregivers practice to help them cope with stress? Gabby, what are some of the things that you have suggested to caregivers or that they have shared with you that those are some of the techniques that they use?
Um, Delegating. I think that's the biggest
Mhm.
thing that often gets overlooked for caregivers because the feeling that you don't want to bother other people, but sometimes there are so many people that are willing to help. They just don't know how, and they're waiting for us to tell them. So, asking someone, hey, can you pick up the medication from the pharmacy? Hey, can you sit with mom while I run an errand? Hey, can you just call in and keep, dad busy while I prepare dinner? Some of those things that really add up. So just delegating tasks, and asking for support, and really outlining what you need, being specific about what you need. That way people can chip in and help.
Right. Sometimes it's just really difficult to ask for help, um, but we need it, right? We all need help at some point. Thank you for sharing that. I often also hear about people who use art or another activity, journaling. Is that something, Yvonne, that you would like to talk to us about?
Yes. For like art, it and journaling, it's an expression of how you feel, what you observe, and what you can create. Like for art, it's more of an expression on um, re- basically recentering yourself, because when you focus on art, it's actually to focus on what you're doing right in front of you, creating something from your own mind, or else just coloring with the different colors that you use to create a picture. And so it recenters yourself. It takes you away from like the immediate emotions that you have, and so that you can focus on creating something for a time. It doesn't have to be long. It can be maybe 15 minutes. It can be actually something you draw, you doodle, you you would color something. There's a lot of adult coloring books nowadays, and so it helps you and perhaps your care receivers, whoever you're taking care of, to actually be able to feel like you're creating something, and it's either pretty or it expresses how you feel. And so
Mhm.
it's a form of expression. It's a release of emotions, or a release of how you feel, and it distracts you away from the immediate issues that you have. With journaling, I have caregivers that say they do a gratitude journal instead of focusing all on all the negatives. And so I know, like for myself, I don't like to do it every day. It's perhaps like a couple times during the week, so it's a not a commitment to do it every day, but it helps you release and also rethink about what's going on during that week. It's a reflective type of technique or something that you do to help you reflect on what's going on. Also, what are not just the negatives or not just like the stressful things that happen
Mhm.
or the things that cause you to really get angered or upset, but also looking at the positives. What are some of the positives that are still there with your loved one? What are some things that you're thankful for um, and you're grateful for? And so it helps to help release and also rethink about your perspective of things.
That's wonderful. Yeah, sometimes I think, well, I definitely will not be painting a Picasso. I'm not a Picasso. It won't be a beautiful painting, but it's just so wonderful. I love flowers, and that's my go-to. I love to paint flowers, but I most of the time do not share my my coloring with others. Just keep it to
Mhm.
myself. But yeah, that's a
Mhm.
great way to help us deal with our high levels of stress. What about exercise? What is the role of exercise when it comes to helping us deal with our stress? Who
I
would
would
like to talk
say
about exercise?
exercise releases what endorphins, and it makes you
Uh,
feel good. If it releases stress with your, it's a physical release of stress. And so it does provide also healthier you in the long run too for exercise. And it doesn't have to be something that you're just jogging or running around. Something that you can enjoy. It could be dancing. It could be a lot of different things that some people consider gardening as an exercise. So
right.
it could be different things that makes a physical activity. But one of the things to be careful of with physical activity and exercise is knowing your own health, seeing what exercise routines are helpful to you. I know that some people might need to consider consulting with their physician first, before they start something new, to see if it is something that can be helpful and not injure what is something that is related to their condition, their medical condition. Some people might consider low impact exercises like aquatic exercises versus high impact running or Zumba dancing, things like that. So be aware of, the that exercise is healthy, but you need to also consider your overall health and see if it's something for you.
Right. Thank you. I know that walking, right? As we talk
Mhm.
about easy to do, you don't have to pay for it because unfortunately sometimes
Mhm.
having if we have the time to go to the gym, right, that can get very expensive. But walking is something that we normally tell people that it's easier to do, and both you and the person you care for may be able to go out for a walk together and enjoy. We're fortunate to have beautiful weather in Southern California. And so it is always great to be able to do that. I do like your suggestion about aquatic exercises. A lot of people are able to enjoy that. They may be able to go to their local YMCA and be able to practice some of those exercises. What other suggestions do any of you have for stress management? Other types of activities or techniques that one can try?
gonna sound
Watching
odd, Marie,
movies. Oh.
but this is gonna sound odd. But cooking, I know a lot of times people want to take a
Mm.
break from cooking, but finding maybe something that you and the person you're caring for can maybe bake or make together. It's a great bonding activity, and baking really just slows down the time. It allows you to concentrate and really focus on what you're doing. So, plus there's sweet treats at the end. So, I'm always for cooking.
No, that's wonderful. And being able to sometimes, there are certain activities that the person that we care for, especially, if it's someone that's living with dementia, and there are limited activities that they can actually do. But I know that food preparation, it's one of those things that we can get them engaged in, and we both then, like you said, at the end, enjoy the work that we did together, and they feel that they are part of the process. So I think that's an excellent suggestion. And who doesn't love food, right? Um, so I jumped ahead and started to mention and brought up the issue of isolation. I know, as I started to say, that the past couple of years have been really difficult for many. Most of us definitely felt very much disconnected from our friends and families because we had to, for safety, and for so many reasons, and in most instances because we were really not allowed to get together with family. But what for us, for the majority of us who perhaps are not caregivers, isolation was just something new, something that we were not used to. Some of us had a really difficult time with it, but caregivers seem to experience isolation on an ongoing basis, right? Because they are so engaged in the care that they're providing for others, and they just very much feel disconnected from the world. What are some of the things that our caregivers or just people in general can do to help with feeling disconnected from others? What are some of the suggestions that you can offer? Cecia?
Thank you, Marie, for that question. You touched on some aspects of isolation that are important to recognize, and um, one of those is that disconnection from there's two different kind of isolations that one can experience, especially as a caregiver. There is the literal aspect of being isolated because maybe you are a family caregiver caring for somebody who needs help round the clock, and you may not have family who is able to provide relief, or you may not have um, a paid caregiver who is able to provide some relief. So there is that physical isolation or restriction to being at home, and then there's also the emotional isolation, which you refer to as being disconnected from folks, and that can both of those, both the physical and the feeling of disconnection, can look differently. But one way is as a family caregiver, there may not be family, there may not be friends, colleagues who necessarily have experienced what you're experiencing as a family caregiver, and so you may find yourself withdrawing from social activities and even relationships because because they may not understand, they may not get it, and that can be isolating itself. And so one way to fight that, one way to combat caregiving isolation is by first recognizing that our family, our relatives and friends or colleagues who have not been caregivers, it's true that they may not understand, they may not get what you're going through. It is important to recognize that and not to sugarcoat that. And with that reality, we can also recognize that there are other caregivers out there in the world. Here in Los Angeles County, where we are housed specifically, there are spaces, whether it's online, that through blogs or Facebook groups, where caregivers come together to share experiences, to share and vent about what the challenges that they're going through, but also to recount some of the victories that they experience. There are
Mhm.
also, one aspect that I think has been important as a center is that through COVID, we have been in a position where virtual support groups, virtual events have been created and will likely continue for many years. And so, if you're not able to leave your home, if you're not able to physically leave your home, you may still be able to tap into virtual support groups, education events. But there are also, maybe not through us right now, but there are other organizations that are offering in person support groups and in person events for family caregivers, such as some of our viewers. And and so there are spaces, there are places where you may be able to find folks who may not necessarily experience exactly your experience as a caregiver and exactly your challenges, but that they may encounter because of their caregiving experience. Some of those, they may be familiar with some of those challenges
Right, right.
and the victories and the grief and the joys and the just a lot of that experience. Um, but again, if that may not be accessible to you, that may
Mhm.
not be accessible to some family caregivers, right? Virtual support groups, in-person support groups, um, even logging to a Facebook group. Like I recognize that, I hear family caregivers, just yesterday having a conversation with one of my caregivers, and they were saying, I just don't have time, I don't have time to do these things. And so if that's not accessible to you, then I would recommend that you identify small ways to take care of yourself on a day-to-day basis. And that may start by adjusting some of your expectations,
Mhm. Mhm.
expectations about what you are able to do, what the world is able to do for you, what people around you are doing. um, but even just a very, I think, maybe small example, but very real example is, for instance, um, maybe before you were a family caregiver, you enjoyed going out to dinner with your friends. And so consider instead now inviting friends to your home for a potluck.
Mhm.
And
Right.
this allows you as a family caregiver to be social without having to prepare a full meal for others, because that's
Mhm.
just, again, it's an added thing that you would have to do.
Right.
And while, again, while friends and relatives may not understand your struggles as caregivers, especially if you're the primary caregiver, you may still be they may still be able to provide, and you may still be able to receive a mental and social break from your responsibilities.
Right.
Another method that may be helpful is taking care of your identity, taking care of yourself by bringing in intentionality to the small things
Mhm.
that you do on a day basis.
Right.
So, for instance, if you have 5 minutes to wash your face or brush your hair, consciously observe yourself, watch yourself in the mirror as you do this task, and tell yourself that this is for you. You may repeat a mantra, which goes a little bit into that meditation and some other techniques, but just for 5 minutes doing that task that we have to do. right? I mean, hopefully we're brushing our teeth, we're washing our faces. Um, and so during those 2, 3 minutes, or maybe 5 minutes that you can do that for, repeat a mantra like, I did my best and that's all I can do, or I deserve love and care also. And of course, I recognize that this is not social interaction, but these practices can be grounding for us, and it they help nurture our sense of self, which can be helpful in fighting that isolation, those feelings of isolation.
Oh, that's excellent. Thank you. You know, I find that sometimes when we are so stuck, for lack of better words, in worrying and just really feeling that stress, we forget to reach out, right? So I think like one of the things that it's another easy thing to do, well, maybe it's not really easy, but that we have to kind of allow ourselves is to really to pick up the phone. You know, sometimes I can tell you that when you were mentioning earlier about those long rides home, you know, being in traffic. You know, instead of feeling very stressed out about that drive, I reach out to friends and they probably know by now, oh, Marie is in traffic because she's calling us. But I do find that, you know, reaching out to friends, to family, it's one way to feel that connection. um, as we approach the holidays, you know, this is a time when perhaps for the first time after 2.5 years, we're going to have the opportunity to get together with family. And that brings a lot of joy, a lot of excitement. But as we care for someone perhaps who is living with dementia, there are certain considerations that we need to take. There's certain things that we need to do to plan, right? So it takes a little bit more planning when you have to really take into consideration some of the things that may impact the person that you care for. What is some good advice that we can provide to caregivers about planning for the holidays and the get-togethers with those loved ones, family, friends that we perhaps haven't seen in a while? Gabby, would you like to go first? Sorry.
Sure. I was waiting on you to call us all out.
Mhm.
I think starting small. Um,
Mhm.
Starting small. I know we're just getting out of the pandemic, but maybe starting small and managing those expectations. Maybe instead of having the big gathering with all of the family or all the friends, maybe have several small gatherings, or maybe preparing half the meal and purchasing the other half. Just
Yes,
small
of
things,
course.
just taking it down a bit and making it more intimate and connecting with family. So just making it a little bit smaller.
Oh, that's a great idea. What about you, Cecia? What would be a good piece of advice for someone as they get ready to get together with family and friends for the holidays?
I recognize that folks, a lot of end of the year stress comes from gathering with people. So I would just like to offer family caregivers that it is okay to decline invitations. It is okay to say, right now it's not a good time. Why don't we try it again in a month? Why don't we try it again next week? And it's okay to do that. I know that, again, sometimes it's just not the right time, and
Mhm.
hopefully, family, relatives, friends, maybe understanding will be understanding. Um, I also would like to just offer that end of the year stress can also revolve around the grief that comes during this season. Um,
Mhm.
Not everybody has the opportunity to gather with people and to be close to people outside of the person that they're caring for. And so I'd like to return back to some of those support groups and spaces where other
Mhm.
caregivers are also um, likely not all the time, but you'll be able to find other caregivers who may also be experiencing that. And caregiving is also just one of the identities of the person of us as family caregivers, right? There are other identities that we have. We might be um, women, we might be former teachers, or we might be immigrants. I mean, there are so many other parts of our identities, and so maybe tapping into those groups as well that may provide some of that support when during these end of the year stresses and grief is very real. So what are some other parts of our identity and that we can tap into to find support?
That's excellent. Thank you. Yvonne, would you like to add anything else to that related
I
to?
would, with the holidays, I
Mhm.
would say that when you invite people, be very clear about like your bound, like for instance, some of the things, their expectations.
Mm.
Sometimes as caregivers, we don't have enough time to plan all the traditional rituals that we
Mm.
do as a family.
Right,
And
right.
so and also looking at perhaps sharing the things that usually is happening from one person's perspective. For instance, having someone make the gravy and the mashed potatoes versus making the entire meal yourself.
Mhm,
And then
mhm.
looking at, like what Gabby was saying, having smaller groups, smaller group gatherings, and perhaps like stretching it out versus having it all on one day. And
Right.
so sometimes with a care receiver or family member with neurological impairments such as dementia or Alzheimer's, they are they don't function so well with the overstimulation of having a lot of people, a lot of voices, a lot of noise, a lot of activity all in a few hours. So looking at setting some groundwork in planning activities so that you don't get overwhelmed and your care receiver, your loved one, doesn't get overwhelmed or overstimulated. Yes.
Yeah, those are excellent points. Thank you.
Great.
Well, yes, please. Gabby, please go
I was
ahead.
going to say if I could add something, going back to what Yvonne said, setting boundaries I think are helpful for the holidays, especially
Mhm,
when we some of us have loved ones that are immunocompromised. So if that's creating rules for the space that you're going to be in, or like you said,
mhm,
time limits, but setting those boundaries and the expectation of how you expect people to engage on the holiday when they're visiting, I think it's helpful
mhm.
for caregivers, and it could help us with preventing burnout as well, going back to that, just managing yourself and what you expect.
Thank you, Gabby. Yes, thank you for adding that and for us to feel that we have the permission to do that because sometimes we care so much about others people's needs that we forget to express our own concerns, our own needs. So setting those rules ahead of time and communicating with others, that I think that's an excellent point. Well, I can't believe that the end of our discussion, that our discussion is coming to an end. I very much appreciate all of your input. We want to make sure that, we have been able to provide um, awareness about the importance of paying attention to your body, to how you're feeling, reaching out to others for help and making time for yourself, right? We again often forget, really truly forget that we need our own space, our own time, and we need to be able to address how we're feeling, how if we're already experiencing high levels of stress, making sure that we talk to someone and ask for help. Asking for help is a big part. So I want to thank you again, and we hope that we have been able to provide some great ideas for our caregivers. We want you to know that we truly value all that you do, and Jenny would be able to provide some additional information about how you can reach out to us, and we're here to provide support. And Jenny, back to you.
Thank you, Marie, Cecia, Yvonne, and Gabby, for your informative discussion today. I hope our audience has learned some tips or life hacks from you and your discussion that they will be able to use in their day to day lives. Now, we're going to switch gears a little bit. If you have ever been to one of our conferences in the past, you'll know that no caregiver conference of ours is complete without some element of meditation. Over the years, we've had our quiet meditation room and guided meditation segments. This year is no different. I'm going to lead you through a short guided meditation session. Before we begin, let's make sure you are in a comfortable, safe space where you can close your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice for 10 minutes. It should go without saying, but please do not close your eyes if you are driving, walking, or doing something that could become dangerous. Now, let's take a seat and get comfortable. Here we go. Close your eyes softly and keep them closed. Make sure to sit still and remain calm. Feel your body becoming light, so light it begins to float up off the ground. Begin to soar into the sky where it is warm and beautiful. The sky is blue and full of white, puffy clouds. Birds are singing, and the sunshine is warm and golden. Now imagine your favorite place. Take a moment to imagine what it looks like. Imagine what it smells like. Are there any other people there? Or are you by yourself? Continue soaring through the beautiful blue sky to your favorite place. Fly overhead and see this place from the sky. Look down upon it. Enjoy seeing it from so high above. Now fly past your favorite place and see a rainbow in the distance. Begin to soar through the sky toward the rainbow. The rainbow is beautiful, full of so many colors, so bright and playful. Fly straight into the rainbow and grab your favorite colors in your hand. Continue to soar through the sky, finding a colorful kite flying nearby. Chase this kite and follow it as it travels on its own path through the sky. Allow the kite to continue on its way as you continue on your way. Find a large leafy tree and begin to descend from the sky to land safely and softly on the tree branches. The tree is strong and supports you. Enjoy swinging from the tree branches and climbing down its trunk. The grass at the base of the tree is green and soft. It is a restful place. The tree offers shade, and the grass offers comfort. Lie down on the grass and relax under the shade of the tree. Feel completely relaxed and still. Listen to the birds singing overhead. Feel the warm breeze on your cheeks. Now begin to slowly move your fingers and your toes, making small movements in small places. Begin making larger movements with your arms and your legs. Begin stretching. When you are ready, open your eyes. Whew! I hope now everyone is relaxed and feeling good about continuing the day. Thank you for joining me on that meditative journey. Guided meditation can be such a soothing activity to calm us down and recenter ourselves in this crazy life. Sometimes we just need to be still and present in the moment. Now, we're almost at the end of our time together. I would like to turn your attention back to something we talked about when we talked about how caregivers can help themselves and support their own well being. And that is, it's okay to seek help. Now, let me repeat that for you. It's okay to seek help. Being a family caregiver can be very confusing and overwhelming. Sometimes you don't know where to start or what you need. No one ever says caregiving is easy. There is no handbook to tell us what to do and how to do it. We're all just trying to figure out ways to adapt and work with what we have. That is why reaching out to others, asking for help, and embracing the services that community organizations can offer you is so important and necessary. That's where we come in, and that's where we can help. The USC Family Caregiver Support Center is here for family caregivers. Our goals are to educate you, connect you to resources, and support you throughout your caregiving journey. The center provides services such as information and referral, support groups, evidence based trainings, community education, and much, much more. If you're a family caregiver or you know of someone who is a family caregiver and you're struggling and need support, we can help. Our center is also home to the Los Angeles Caregiver Resource Center, which is part of the California statewide system of 11 caregiver resource centers. So, wherever you live in the state of California, there is a caregiver resource center that covers your area. If you happened upon this video by chance and you don't know about our center yet, please visit our website at losangelescrc.usc.edu for more information. You can sign up for our program right on our website through the CareNav link on our homepage. You can also visit our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to learn more and connect with our center. This video will be available on our YouTube channel if you or someone you know wants to watch it on their own. It's never too late to ask for help. Remember that oftentimes it's what you don't know that hurts you. So please don't be shy about being connected to one of our experts. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like it below. Also, make sure to click on that red subscribe button to subscribe to our YouTube channel and be notified every time we post a new educational video for the caregiving community. So, before I say goodbye, I want to remind you, don't forget, we've got some great fun and educational events planned for our caregiving community in November. Remember I said that at the beginning of this video, right? So join us for some lunchtime laughter, computer tips, a book author panel, a virtual painting class, and even a movie event. You can find out more information and register for all these things at the link at the bottom of the screen, which is tinyurl.com/22nd-calm. Again, that is tinyurl.com/22nd-CALM. I hope I'll be able to see you at some of these upcoming events. Now, take good care of yourself, and until next time, just remember that caregivers fight on. Have a great rest of your day.